Hi everyone, it's Gary Nicholson here for the Mountain Weather Information Service. This year planning outlook video updated on Friday the 18th of January. Now colder temperatures and wintry conditions have returned to the mountains and look very much here to stay through the remainder of January, and even some indications into early February at least as well. There was some snow in the forecast over the days ahead. The distribution of that will vary from place to place as wind direction changes, but overall the message is of terrain being frozen and many mountains being snow covered over the next week to 10 days and beyond. Let's just start with a look at a snow depth chart. This off one of the forecast models, and this is snow depth in any given 6-hour period, and we'll start off with Monday of next week. At that point there is a covering over the higher tops across the highlands, not a great deal elsewhere, a dusting maybe from what's been left over the weekend. But through late Monday onwards is where a front comes in from the Atlantic. We'll show you those charts in a minute, but basically that's where some more significant accumulations will focus across the Western Highlands, but more extensively across much of the Highlands as time goes on there. And as we go through into Tuesday, as much colder air sweeps across the country, showers of snow and hail will be pretty widespread, focused across western regions, but giving some significant accumulations. Look how things start to mount up on the West and Northwest Highlands. Things just fluctuate a little bit, but you can see many parts of the country has the risk of a covering of snow, even in low-lying parts of the Midlands and East Anglia, and that's by the time we get through to Thursday that we turn the wind flow more northeasterly. So we're just changing the distribution of snow, and it may well be that it's the Cairngorms, the Eastern Highlands, the Pennines that start to pick up on more in the way of the new lying snow into the later part of the week. Let's have a look at temperatures, and this is the 850 millibar chart. Now if you looked at the last video I put out on Monday, we were talking about by this point temperatures at 850 being around -8 or so, and that was corresponding pretty well to the height of Cairngorm. We were going to look at the observations, and that's what it's been today. Cairngorm Summit observation station around -8.5 degrees today. Now this is just the sequence through Friday night into Saturday, and that very cold air at 850 millibars is just being pushed away a little bit as less cold air off the Atlantic does drift in, as a little area of low pressure shuffles across the country. So for Saturday you've not quite got the depth of cold air that's in place by this stage. Actually very little change of temperature with height. You'll be around or below freezing point practically from lowest slopes upwards. As we go through Sunday, little change at this point, but somewhat colder air just topples in from the Atlantic. If anything, by this stage the 850 level is a bit higher than it has been in previous days, so these values shown on this chart are probably representative just a bit higher up than the highest tops in Scotland, so you might come down to say a -5, 6 rather than the numbers shown here, which are nearer to -7 or 8. Either way, it's still staying sub-zero from lower slopes upwards. Now into Monday, there's fronts coming through, briefly a subtle lift of freezing level, but the main story then is by late Monday as a cold front swings in. You'll see where the darker blue colours appear, and at 850 millibars we're now down to around 1200, 1240 metres in northern Scotland, and that value of -7 then shown on this chart is more or less what's the expected temperature on the high tops in Scotland. So bitterly cold air in place by the time we go Tuesday into Wednesday, with northwesterlies. That'll bring the snow and hail showers in to those western mountains as mentioned. And then if you just trace the contour lines on this map, they start to go more north and then northeasterly. This is into the second half of the week. The very cold air remains very much in place, terrain frozen from low levels upwards, and bitter temperatures of -5 and below on the Scottish Munros, and something similar on the high tops in England and Wales as well. Add on the wind chill, of course, by that stage, and you'll be really into severe winter conditions. So one to be prepared for. Don't take things lightly in the week ahead. Of course, we'll put all the wind chill values on the written forecast PDFs for the 3-day outlooks updated every day. A look at the synoptic charts then just for these next few days ahead. Here's Saturday, more or less the story we've already just been talking about. Slack area of low pressure, leftovers of bits of fronts, residual bits of rain and sleet across the Pennines and Wales. A few showers a bit more frequent maybe towards South Wales. Much of the Highlands actually in for a dry day with variable cloud, the northwest looking the best for the breaks in that cloud. Into Sunday, and a weak cold front topples in from the northwest. Not a great deal on this, a zone of cloud and some snow flurries, bits of drizzly sleet or rain on the lowest coastal slopes. Variable cloud then generally breaks best toward the east. There may be some breaks that develop even from the west across Scotland behind that front as the day goes on, and really variable cloud or fog at different levels for England and Wales, so just check your local details to try and get a story out of that one. Monday sees fronts coming in from the Atlantic with more strength. We've got a much more powerful southwesterly wind that will be gale force or severe gale force increasingly as the day goes on. We've got that precipitation arriving at lower levels, becoming a little bit more like rain across the mountains, extensively of snow, the freezing level lifting for a time and then dropping quickly once that cold front sweeps southwards later. It's a story really of deteriorating across Scotland. It may be that England and Wales actually get away with a dry day until Monday evening or night. And then by Tuesday, that cold front really sweeps quickly southeastwards, rain and then sleet and snow on its back edge. But the story for Tuesday daytime is of a northwesterly, of showers, of snow, of hail, with some thunder mixed in and being very frequent, giving whiteout at times across particularly western mountains. The showers could spread almost all the way across the country at times, though. And by Wednesday, the low pressure system is centred out toward the east and the wind flow turning round towards the north, with bands of showers, maybe some more organised frontal features coming southwards. Most of the snow looks focused, say, towards northern Scotland. It may be that Wales, the Pennines perhaps even, see something, so you wouldn't rule out some snow falling almost anywhere. As always, the detail once we go further ahead is trickier, but the overriding message is one of staying cold. This chart then takes us onwards towards the end of the week and next weekend. It looks as though low pressure slips southwards into central southern Europe. It allows high pressure to build towards the northwest of Britain. It opens the door to more of an east by northeasterly. Models are still slightly variable in how this plays out towards next weekend. I think the consensus is that there's an easterly trying to get going. Whether there's little troughs or fronts within that, we'll have to wait and see. Overall, western mountains, particularly Scotland, could be substantially dry with glorious, bright, sunny, wintry conditions with that high pressure nearby. This chart, for interest, is the Canadian model. Now, that often does pick out cold weather patterns the best, and at this stage it really hangs on to the easterly well on through next weekend and beyond. Other models are a little bit more sceptical of that. They start to break down the easterly and not allow it to build as much as this. But I think we've got to set up the stall at least for the remainder of January, one way or the other being cold. Whether it's completely easterly all the time or we get some variation, we'll have just to wait and see as the next 10 days plays out. So there we have it, a much more properly wintry outlook as we head towards the later stages of January, as has been looking the case for quite some time, it must be said. So be prepared for that and really take care if you're out on the mountains in these wintry conditions. Stay up to date with our local forecast updated daily. We'll update the video for you again early in the new week. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.